Hey, this is Tiger, and we are here for the first real tutorial stream in Train Sim World 4. And what I do not have in this game anymore is a disclaimer that I can ask you to read and act accordingly, so I have to do it on my own. We are talking about playing a computer game, so please do not mess with real world trains and railway installations unless obviously you are a properly trained and charged professional for doing this. Hey AJ, thank you for moderating my stream again. Nice to see you on the chat. That thingy that I sometimes want to increase a bit in size, maybe then I don't misread that much. Well, I have to look into that outside of the stream, most probably. What I wanted to do today is to go back to Vorarlberg. We have been here yesterday in the early evening and played one route, and now we are going the whole route from the north to the south. It's Vorarlberg, the route, and no, it's the journey version. I think I wanted to check. I still have all my, or some of my DLCs installed, even though, what happened now? Even though Epic locked them again. So we will see if we actually get all the DLCs on release on Tuesday, or if the bundled one are actually missing again. Hey CD Radar, and hello Theodorus, hello Tiger and Alice J. He says, first time watching you live, Tiger. Very nice to have you on the stream, and I hope you're not regretting tuning in. We are having a look at the Austrian signaling system today while we are driving our Talent one from Lindau in Germany, obviously, down the line to, I always forget the name, Bludenz it is, what is the terminus in the line. We do not have the additional S-Bahn service that goes to a town called Schruns, if I'm not mistaken, but unfortunately we do not have that in the DLC, just as we do not have the connection to St. Margareten in Switzerland, or the connection from, I think it is Feldkirch, through Liechtenstein to Buchs in Switzerland. Let's jump into the service and turn on the service indicator. I played this afternoon, and I tried to develop a bit of feeling for the Talent 1 and its brake systems, and where actually to stop the train and where the sweet stop for stopping is without using the object markers, obviously, in the game. And well, I think I have learned that the amount of points that you get is not only for the stopping accuracy, but also for the timeliness, so in some terms of a combined figure. I will just relax in that context, and then we will see. So what are the dogs doing? They are just walking through the flap because they think there is something to eat for them to get. Okay, our service starts at 15:55 in Lindau. You're going to start out on these shorter services up to the Swiss border. There are only a few stops on this service, so it is a good way to ease yourself in. Well, I doubt this strongly, because we're not going to the Swiss border, but we are running the whole line and stopping at every stop. Maybe this is still up, because I have not played all the shorter services. This is the master switch. We have to turn that one on, then we can doors on the right side. This handle is a bit confusing, because actually the long part indicates what it does. Opening the doors on the right side, then we need the headlights instead of the tail lights, PZB and CIFA on. And yay, Train Sim World 4, TD Radar. I wonder how long you are able to say that before we have to say yay, Train Sim World 5. Brake handle, we can go on and put it into drive directly, I think, then extremely important, tune up the PCB indicator brightness to 100, otherwise we won't see a thing, we won't see much. Don't forget the reverser. Theodorus says, have been enjoying your videos, to be honest, especially when it is about German freight stuff. Yeah, I really love German freight stuff, and also freight stuff in the United States, to be honest, and in the UK, but German freight stuff is the one where you get most reliable information about. Unlock. Lock all doors. Yeah, this should be what we are aiming for. Since you can read up all the directives for German freight handling, it is really a special thing. Up to 30% power is okay when starting the train to make it release. And now, well, but again, we do not see any departure signal, so we will have to go maybe, since we are in the starting program, not faster than 40. We can really faintly see the 70 and the 85 flash alternatingly. And now where are our signals? We are looking. There is a red signal to the left and a red signal to the right. And where is our signal? Where is the signal for our line? Do we not have one? We have one, but it is hidden behind the bridge pillar. At least it is not red, but indicates green over yellow. It is a German signal, so don't get confused. We are not seeing Austrian signals at the moment. It is a German HP2 signal indicating that we can go 40 in the next Weichenbereich until we are through the switches. And CD Raider says, I think as long as DTG want more money for a new game, that could be update or DLC. The route to Liechtenstein, that would be cool, but it's only really a short track. And it is according to Austrian signaling rules, I think, because it is owned and run by the ÖBB. I still have to do some real Austrian freight stuff. A German semaphore distance signal. As long as we are seeing the NE2 distance signal boards, we know that we are in Germany, at least in German signaling territory. Now that we are through the interlocking, we can probably go to the 50 line speed, because the HP2 does not apply anymore. And here is an LF7 signal telling us that we can go 90. Again, as long as those speed boards are black, then we are in Germany, because LF7 signals are black. If they turn red, then we know we are in Austria, because the Austrian signals that tell you the current general speed limit are red instead of black. There was a nice semaphore main signal telling us HP1 good to go with line speed. Here was an LF7 for 100, so we can accelerate to 100 if we want. And the next thing that we run into as soon as we are in Austria, well, I will wait a bit. We're running through a yard area here, as you can see, still belonging to Germany. Train from the other direction, same one that we are on, the Talent 1. Semaphore distant from behind. Here's 2, I think that is the hindsight of a protection signal. Again, any 2 distance signal board, still Germany. I've read that some people on the forums are asking where actually the border is. And I think that the border is what we are approaching now on this straight line. There is one last German main signal, and then the next signal is already an Austrian distance signal. So I think this one is the last German main signal, and what we are approaching now is already a set of Austrian distance signals. You can see they have more lights than only the 2, and the double yellow on the left side that indicates an incoming stop is not in a diagonal fashion like the German VR0, but aligned horizontally like in Switzerland. Now we are approaching the main circuit breaker off section here. We've been warned by this sign. We are taking it off now. We have to acknowledge the double yellow. Now we are passing this signal. We can turn on the main circuit breaker again. So this is a bit tricky because we have to handle the PZB at the same time as we are handling the dead section with the main circuit breaker. The driver assist is not really helping when it is telling us to turn on the power again in the dead section. And now we stop at the Lochau-Hörbranz. And we are actually so early that we probably will get less points because of arriving early. Approaching a red. Not sure if we're getting a 500 Hertz because the indicators are really not readable. You can see the flashing on the blue ones, but you can't really see anything on the yellow and the red one. So, don't forget that we stopped in 1000 Hertz or 500 Hertz monitoring, so we will have the restricted monitoring on when we're starting again. This time we can organize our cameras again or a bit. The Lindau main station that we started our service from is on a peninsula more or less, and we're going around the Bodensee now towards, or already we went towards Austria, and this is where we arrived. Another thing that we can see is that those main signal mast signs are repeated here in Austria on the masts in front of it, so that you are actually warned about an incoming main signal. There are 3 of them. You can see them if we go back a little here. 1, 2, and the next one has 1 too. So that you know there is a main signal incoming. I didn't know that, but after I asked about it on the forums, I found it out in the rules. So sometimes it is just good to voice your questions and then you find the solution yourself. What I wanted to do today is to cut the presentation in like 4 parts, and so that we don't overload with all the stuff that I have prepared. I wanted to talk about all the signaling that is actually happening here on the route in an overview style. Damn, that's a lot of brightness all of a sudden, says AJ. Yeah, this is my presentation, I'm sorry. And instead of starting with the color light signals that we will do at the next station, I wanted to talk about this, what we just had with the dead section, the neutral section thingy for the overhead catenary. What happened there when we had to switch off the main circuit breaker? There has been a lot of talk on the forums regarding the main circuit breaker thing and the signaling, and I wanted to start with that before we get to the other kind of signaling. So this is our route, and what we have here is a so-called Schutzstrecke, or a dead section, neutral section. This is a piece of track where we do not have any electricity in our overhead catenary. This is because we need to isolate two different substation, sub-networks or whatever. At any rate, there is a short piece of track where we do not get any juice from the overhead catenary. And to avoid arcing and sparking issues and stuff like this, we are supposed to turn off our main circuit breaker because before our pantograph hits this part of the overhead catenary that does not have any energy in it. And for that we are getting those blue signs, diamond shaped, that especially one of them looks a bit like a smiley, or yeah, of the early era of computer games. The first thing that we see when we are approaching a dead section or neutral section is this sign. It only has those two white stripes a bit on the blue diamond with a black and a white border. This is how it is defined in the rules. You can see that I am referring to the Betriebliche Richtliniendienstvorschrift 30.02 that is issued by the ÖBB Infra, or is the equivalent to the DB Netz AG or Network Rail in Great Britain. So that institution that owns actually all the tracks and signaling and stuff, and they issue Dienstvorschriften according to the signal. It is called Signalbuch, just like in Germany, and this is what version I have found, and this is where I got all my knowledge from and what I am relaying to you now. So this is the first signal that we see here, and signals have, unlike in Germany where we have those short denominations like NE2 or EL1 or EL1V, we have quite bulky names for the Austrian signal, and this one is called Signalankündigung Hauptschalter aus, means advance MCB off. Ankündigung is announcement, Hauptschalter is the main circuit breaker, and aus obviously is off. So this is an advance MCB off sign. It was warning us that there is a dead section coming up, and this sign here actually tells us at this point, when we are passing this point, then our main circuit breaker needs to be off. So it looks for everybody like a smiley face, but actually it means this is a switch. You have to imagine those big old light switches that you maybe know from Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck cartoons, where it can be switched off and on, and this is the open position. The circuit is not closed, the switch is open. This is what this sign is supposed to say, so it means main circuit breaker off. Typically this is placed according to the rules 30 meters in advance of where the section actually begins. Don't tell me this is smile. CD Radar says, well, there is no smile because it is a straight line, right? So it is this I don't know smiley. You're right. What does it say in the rules? It is a auseinandergenommenes U. It is a disassembled U, disassembled letter U. Well, everybody sees something else in it, and at least what we need to know, we have to have our main circuit breaker off when we pass this sign, so that we don't go into an arcing and sparking. If we don't do this, then the main circuit breaker gets turned off as soon as we enter the dead section anyway. This is why the player assist sometimes tells you that you have to turn on the main circuit breaker again, even if you did not turn it off deliberately. This is because we have a thing on our train that is called the low voltage protection relay or something like this, Unterspannungsschutz. Every time that if we are losing too much traction voltage, then it gets detected by this thingy and it turns off the main circuit breaker for safety reasons. Of course, low voltage can indicate some kind of a failure, and then we want to turn off all the electricity. So this is what happens if we run into a dead section unawares. Then the main circuit breaker pops anyway, or gets thrown by this low voltage protection relay, and then we have to switch it on as soon as we are out. And this advanced MCB off sign is, according to the rules, placed 300 meters in advance of the MCB off sign. Again, 30 meters after we are through the that section, and there is again electricity in the overhead catenary, then we are getting this sign that tells us now it is allowed to close the switch again and have the MCB, the main circuit breaker, on again. So this is what we have on this route. If I have not miscounted, 3 times when we're running from Lindau to Bludenz, at the start and somewhere in the middle, and then almost at the end. So be aware what you have to do as soon as you see this sign. All right, I have to prepare for turning off the main circuit breaker. You have to adjust your braking a bit, because as soon as you're turning off the main circuit breaker, you typically do not have your dynamic brakes anymore on this train. As soon as I have seen, the train will adjust the air brakes automatically, so typically you don't have to do anything, but it will take a bit, and this can interfere with your typical braking experience of this train. So if you're approaching a station and you're going through a dead section, then prepare yourself that the braking will be a bit awkward. When we're talking about the main circuit breaker signs, then we can look at those signs as well. I have not seen them in the game so far, but they mustn't be confused with the main circuit breaker. This is the equivalent, but not for the main circuit breaker, but for the pantograph, telling you that advance, you have to be prepared to lower your pantograph. So if you see that, we have seen equivalent signals on the TGV line for getting down the pantograph, getting it up again later, but those are the signals in Austria, and we have in Germany the same signals, or pretty much the same signals. They look quite alike with the blue and the same symbols on it. So this same system here, also the same distances between the thing, the part of the track where the pantograph needs to be lowered so that it does not get entangled in something that is on top of the track or whatever. So there are many reasons why you should lower your pantograph. You get an advanced signal. 300 meters later, you get this sign, and at this sign, the pantograph needs to be lowered and panto down, and then there is this signal Stromabnehmer hoch, telling you panto up again. And in between, this is in the rules not called a Schutzstrecke, but with a quite bulky name, it is the mit gesenkten Stromabnehmern zu befahrender Gleisabschnitt. So this is the track section that needs to be driven on with lowered pantographs. This would be more or less the translation word by word. So this is the panto down section here. So same principle of regulating it, but with different signs and different meanings. This is where you just have to open and close the pantograph, this the main circuit breaker, sorry, and this is where you actually have to lower and raise the pantograph again. Yeah, obviously, as soon as you are lowering the pantograph, the main circuit breaker gets turned off again because you're losing the voltage, so you have to turn the main circuit breaker on again after raising the pantograph. That would be the first part of the presentation. unfortunately, we still have to wait for the clock to advance because it was not possible to wait it out. But this gives us a bit of opportunity to have a look at the writing on our train. For example, there is an interesting anomaly in this number here. This is the European vehicle number that identifies this vehicle, rail vehicle, in the whole of Europe. You can find the class here 4024. This is the talent in the Austrian classification system. The 103 is the number of this unit here, and the 6 is a control number. 81 tells us that this is a vehicle registered in Austria, and the 93 actually tells us what kind of a vehicle it is, and the 93 is typically the number after UIC classification that tells us that this is a high-speed train. 93 is for high-speed trains, and obviously we are a train that is allowed to go 140. That might count as high speed in 1895, but probably not in 2023. And from what you can read, at least on Wikipedia, is that the new set of trains, or after the new refurbishment, this will be changed into 94, what is a non-high speed electric multiple unit, or multiple unit at all. Let's close our doors. Can we see the brake marking somewhere? Do we have a brake marking? Before we have to go on again. Can't find the brake marking. That's weird. I'm probably just not seeing it right. Ah, here it is. This is telling us what kind of a brake we have. It is a sub-WAPCO computer-controlled EP electro-pneumatic brake with a pneumatic fallback system, setting R only with magnetic track brakes and an automatic load change. With disc brakes, this is where we've got the D, and Notbremsüberbrückung. That means we can delay the activation of an emergency brake if it is initiated by a passenger. Funny enough, we got twice the rewards for stopping here, probably because we stopped so long. See, load passengers, load passengers. We have to let pass this Swiss train. You can see the RRB train from Stadler and the Luzern-Surcy that just passed here. And we are still held by our red signal. Okay, now we can start our train again. And I always have to remind me, we are in a restricted. We have been able to release, we have been allowed to release because the signal is green, and we are not expecting a new monitoring within the next couple of 100 meters, so we can accelerate with line speed out of the stretch and towards Bregenz. Can already admire the nice mountain scenery with those houses sitting in the mountains, with the clouds amassing behind the mountains. And what I really love is how the clouds sometimes cling to the mountains. Still the Bodensee on the right. What I especially enjoy as well is, I hope I did not go into speeding now. Oh, seems to be okay. Is how they made the piece where the water hits the coast. That always was a bit strange, and now we're getting a double yellow and getting warned about arriving at the station anyway. But this means we probably have to stop before we get into the station area, so we're slowing down below the 60 in case we are actually getting a 500 Hertz. But since we have no way of seeing the station marker, yes. The brightness of this lamp, I've already have it on 100% brightness, otherwise I wouldn't see a thing at all. And for the 1000 Hertz and 500 Hertz lamp, it does not do anything. Now approaching the red signal, we can again see that there are 3 main signal boards indicating that we're approaching a main signal, what is actually not bad. We don't have that in the German system, that we are getting a warning about the main signal actually incoming. And the station marker, we will go back to this later. There was this broad white sign with the 3 black stripes that is telling us that there is a stopping point up ahead in 1 kilometer or in 700 meters depending on line speed. So we did not have to stop, but we have to be prepared for acknowledging again. We are in a restricted... Yeah, obviously we are not in a restricted 500, otherwise it would have stopped it already. Stopped us already. So, where do we stop? Maybe here. In front of this shunting signal that we can see to our right. 589, that is okay. Here, we will get to those signals later. This is a protection signal. It looks like it is on the signal, but it only applies to shunting services. Shunting services that are called Verschubfahrten in Austria, not Rangierfahrten like in Germany, but Verschubfahrten. That is, again, in German, yes, this is strange because a Verschubfahrt in Germany is if a prisoner in prison has to appear at court and give evidence as a witness, for example, and obviously he cannot go there on his own, and he needs to be taken by the prison guards or the court marshals. Then this drive taking this prisoner to court is called a Verschubfahrt in Germany, and in Austria this is the equivalent of a shunting service. So, did you look up that city chat thing? Oh no, I did not get around to it, and I like those repeaters with white lines. Yeah, we're getting to those. Die Signalnachahmer, what is a great word in German ears. It sounds like a signal impersonator, a Signalnachahmer, but this is the official word in the rules in Austria. So, we're getting to the color light signals in Austria. In this presentation is on great. Obviously, as everybody knows, and this is not surprising, we have the single red for a stop signal in the rules. Signal Halt. You shall not pass this signal. And so that we can recognize it as a main signal, we have this signal mast sign that we know from Germany as well. It is the white on the edges and red in the middle, telling us that this is a main signal. In German, in the Austrian rules, it is actually called a signal Kennzeichnung. Kennzeichnung is marking, so that we can see that this is a main signal. On the other hand, also not very surprising, this is the signal telling us we can go with the maximum authorized line speed. It is a frei, free, clear signal. Freifahrt. Just like in the German or in the Swiss system, we do not only have main signals, but distant signals that are put up in a certain distance. In Austria, it is not necessarily always the same distance like on German main railways of 1 kilometer, but it depends. This can be a different spacing and depends on the ruling that is applicable to this route. But again, we typically have it in a distance that is enough that we can still stop our train in front of the next signal. And the double yellow indicates that the next signal will be a red one. It is called Vorsicht, caution. And yeah, unlike in the German system, we don't have them diagonally aligned, but horizontally aligned. And also the shape of this board yeah, reminds us of the Swiss system L, where we have a tutorial about in the Arosa line. The equivalent that indicates that the next signal should be a green one. It looks just like on the German system or the Swiss system. It is the diagonally aligned green lights. Hauptsignal frei, main signal free or clear. Let's say clear, main signal clear. And now the things that CD radar says, those things are signal repeaters. We know distant signal repeaters from different signaling systems. We know that in the German system they just look like the distant signal, but with sometimes with indicators, and especially not with a distant signal board, an NE2 board. Here in Austria they look unique, so I have never seen them anywhere else. So these things are repeating the indication of the distance signal in case that we have poor visibility on the main signal. So in case we cannot see the main signal because there is a bend or an obstacle, foliage or a house or whatever standing in the way, then we are getting the repeater. CD radar says, I always admired it in real life and never knew what they are for. And now you can use them in the game for yourself. Yes, and they more or less show us a bar, yeah, that is closed or open, a bit like the position lights that we know from some American signaling systems. So the left thingy is always in the same position. So that is a bit of a waste of those lamps maybe, but this one, the horizontal bar here actually changes. If it is in a horizontal position, it tells us that the main signal associated with it will be at red. So Hauptsignal zeigt Halt. Main signal shows stop. This is the indication of this Signalnachahmer, of this distant signal repeater. Sometimes they have a yellow border. If they have a yellow border or a yellow edge around them, then this, according to the rules, indicate or tell you as a driver that there is a 1000 Hertz PZB magnet installed at this signal repeater. We know from the German system that signal repeaters can have 1000 Hertz PZB magnets, but not all of them have them, and to be honest, most of them do not have any PZB magnets associated with them, but the operating rules tell you, in Germany at least, in Austria I have not found this yet, that you always have to acknowledge signal repeaters as well, because, as every train driver in Germany tells you if you ask them, because you are not acknowledging magnets but signals. Obviously this is what they get taught in train driver school. And how you're supposed to do this in Austria, I don't know. At least this yellow border should tell you that there is a 1000 Hertz magnet associated with the signal repeater. And if it is active, actually, then this should not appear in white, but in yellow, according to the rules here on the site. They are specified that I have read. As soon as the magnet is active, then those things should appear in yellow. The repeater's light position is like digital semaphore to me, says Theodoros. Yeah, totally. Totally. This is digital semaphore, just like the position lights are digital or, well, semaphore look-alike. And this is totally a semaphore signal, like lowering it and opening it again. And yeah, but in the game I have not seen a yellow version of those, even though at some of those there might be actually a PCB magnet associated with them, because some of them actually have yellow borders. I have seen those yellow borders, we will see them later, but I have never seen this indication in yellow. They are in the game, as far as I have seen them, always white. If this is a thing that needs to be modernized, I don't know, but this is at least what the rules tell you. Border in yellow tells you there is a magnet, and if this aspect appears in yellow, then the 1000 Hertz is actually active. Not only there, but also active. So you're not wasting your acknowledge at this point. The equivalent that tells you that the signal is clear would be like this. Again, digital semaphore, just like Theodorus says, open. Bar is open. This looks like a semaphore signal with the equivalent indication. Main signal shows clear. It can have the yellow border again. That means that there is a magnet, but at this time, because it does not appear in yellow but in white, it is inactive. Obviously, there is no point in setting this magnet active if the signal associated with it is clear. So this is why this would appear in white according to the rules again. So again, let's consolidate this. We have three groups of signals, more or less. The main signal that can be recognized by those boards, also with those boards that are announcing it by 3 boards in advance. Then we have the distance signal with the 2 lights, and we have the signal repeater, the distance signal repeater, oder Signalnachahmer in Austrian German. That is the progression from clear to red, with more or less those 3 aspects and the repeaters in between. And then we have some speed signaling that we see on this route also. This one we have seen when we left our starting position in Lindau, but then it was a German signal, but the same aspect exists in the Austrian system as well. Green over yellow is a frei mit 40. That is a clear 40 signal, so you are restricted to 40 until you are getting through the ensuing Weichenbereich and through the interlockings that are connected with this signal. The corresponding distance signal looks like this, a bit like the Vorsicht distance signal, but with a green dot. So again, so if you just think this yellow light away, then you have the German VR2 indication, but in the Austrian system, a bit like in the Swiss system, we have one light more, so we are upgrading this caution signal by a green light and are getting to a announcing clear 40. The corresponding repeater would look like this. It is again like semaphore, but now the bar is lowered. We don't have this on the semaphore main signals here, but what we see here is we can go, but with a restricted speed. We are not stopped, we are not free, but we can go with a restricted speed. And this is, for example, what we have in the American position light system, often as a restricted. This bar leading from left to right downwards is often used as a restricted aspect. And here again, it is not really restricted speed, but it is actually a slow speed, slowed down to 40 kilometers. And this has a very, very long name here. Hauptsignal zeigt frei mit Geschwindigkeitsbegrenzung. That means main signal shows clear with speed limit. You need a lot of letters for all that in German, and well, but yeah, I've always loved about how many letters you need in Polish to have your words, but then I looked at our German words and we actually need more letters for most things. Sometimes it is good to look across the border and see other things. No, I will not read that. I will not read that CD radar. No swearing, at least not on my side. Yeah. Again, it can have the yellow border indicating that there is a 1000 Hertz magnet installed, but as you can see, it is white. At this, according to the rules at least, it would not be active here. The distance signal actually can have an active magnet if the repeater is active in the game. I do not really know what the game does at this point, because it is so hard to see whether you are getting a monitoring. Maybe if the indicators get fixed, we can investigate this a bit more. So this is more or less what we know from the German system. Well, don't tell me that is a word. That is not a word. But in the Austrian system, we have a second step of speed limit that we do not have in the German system, but we have something similar in the Swiss system. The Swiss system has a third degree even that is not in the Austrian system. This is green over green in a vertical fashion, not like in a diagonal fashion, like here on the distance signal, announcing that the next main signal is clear, but we have here in a vertical fashion 2 green lights, and this tells us it is clear 60. We can go, but we have to limit ourselves to 60 in the ensuing Weichenbereich in the interlockings afterwards, and the corresponding distance signal will be that. It is actually like this one, the distance signal for clear with a yellow dot on top of it with an additional yellow light, so it is downgrading this distance signal here. And the repeater would be the same, so the repeater does not distinguish between 40 and 60, but it only tells us, yeah, we can go, but with a speed limit. Another thing, we have those things with the striped bars that we know from the German system or the French system, the mirliton, and they indicate that we are approaching a distance signal. There can be one only if the speed limit on the track is 60 or lower, or there can be typically 3 if it is faster than 60 kilometers, the track speed limit, and there can be even 5, just like we know that from the German system, if it is necessary, because we can't see, because there are so many bends in the tracks or obstacles. It is called an Abstandstafel, a distance board. And typically the distance between the board and the distance signal and all the boards is 80 meters. Looks like they are closer together here than the distance to the distance signal, but they are actually spaced in distances of 80 meters. This is confusing. CD radar says green is clear, then more green should be more clear, but it is not. Yes, this is actually true. The Swiss aspect with 3 greens on top of each other is faster than the Swiss aspect with 2 greens on top of each other. Well, that's what it is. Sometimes the flashing green is faster than the non-flashing green, and sometimes the flashing green is slower than the non-flashing green. I guess this is because they inserted it in the signal system later, and obviously the green was already taken, and well, 1 green is just the most clear signal that we have. Next thing will be speed signs, but in between we will go to the next station, I guess. So, where we are here. ÖBB and SBB like deal with it, says Theodorus. Yes, we will have to deal with it. Again, we can pass this little signal here because we are not a Verschubfahrt, no shunting service, but a train service, so we don't have to listen to those little shunting signals, or protection signals to be a bit more exact. Don't forget that we are in a 40 restricted monitoring. I was able to release, so we can accelerate a bit, but not too much because we have to stop at the next station very soon. Here, see this red 11 board? This is what we will be talking next. This is Bregenz, a long platform, a bigger station, bigger city. Bregenz is, if I'm not mistaken, the capital of Vorarlberg. This is a shunting signal 2 here on the right. This is the equivalent of, you may go as a shunting service, but on a signal on a stick, not the one on the ground. Oh, I slowed down a bit too much because the platform is really long. Swiss train waiting on the right. Minute late in the arrival. Still okay. Oh, we are late to leave. So what I will use at this point in time for the first time is the photo mode, so that we can look around without the time passing, so that we can look at things. So this is our train, this is the Swiss train, and if you look into the Swiss train, you see that it does not have a driver, but this is not the weird thing. But what we have talked about here, this is the Signalnachahmer, the distance signal repeater. And what does it tell us? We don't see a yellow border, so we see that it is not with a magnet, but there is a magnet. Oops, what is that? And then it shows the next signal, the associated main signal should be at red. Let's see if that is true. Unfortunately, we cannot use the accelerated movement with the camera. There is another repeater, and yeah, the signal is red, and the signal does not have a magnet. Typically, main signals have at least a 2000 Hz magnet, but there is no magnet. That might actually be prototypical and make sense to put the 2000 Hz magnet, the one that stops the train, in case that the signal is red, not at the main signal itself, but already at the repeater, because when you look down here, we can see, if I find the magnet again, that it is a 2000 Hz magnet. It is not a 1000 Hz magnet, but it's a 2000 Hz magnet. Magnets that are typically only found at main signals, they can show red because they stop the train when the train tries to pass them when they are at danger. So maybe this is an arrangement actually where we put the 2000 Hz magnet at the repeater so that the train does not start from its stopping position at the station as long as the exit signal is showing red. Maybe this is the idea behind it, but I don't know. Obviously, I cannot be sure. For us, it is normal. We have our exit signal here, and most probably a 2000 Hz magnet as well, yes, protecting this signal. So when I go back to into my train, well, I'm not in the train either, so we don't have a driver here either. So probably the driver vanishes in photo mode. Is that so? Interesting. So we cannot... That's absurd. What if you are freight and not stopping at the station? Yeah, that is correct. Maybe freight services are not routed through this particular track here. Don't know. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I just realized it this afternoon and thought maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. But typically when Dovetail Games puts magnets in a certain position at a certain signal, then it typically makes sense because they are reproducing most of the time the plans that they are getting for the tracks, and then it is actually like that. What we might notice when we go out of photo mode again is that this train here doesn't give a shit about this, about the rule that you mustn't approach a red signal when you're stopping from from a platform, because it will start driving up to the red signal anyway, and it will not get stopped at all by the 2000 Hertz magnet that it is passing. So for AI trains there are different rules, obviously. See, it just starts, approaches the red signal unhindered. See, the radar says yes, only thing that can be done is go there in real life and have a look. Yes, that's true. So let's go to Bregenz and check. Don't use more than 30% power as long as the brakes are still relieving, otherwise you will get this screeching noise. We are again in a restricted 1000 Hertz. See, now the train stopped at the red signal. We were able to release, that is good. Do we have to prepare for some slowing down? No. We can actually try to get the time back or not lose more time. HSS, real live stream incoming, streaming, checking out the station, yeah. I don't know, does the Deutschland ticket go up to Bregenz? Or do we need to buy an Austrian Klima ticket? Here we saw the 14 speedboard. Minute late, I have to make up some time, I guess. 465. But next time I am in Austria, I will look for this. Yes, please do that. That would be so great if you could confirm that. Again. Short moment photo mode. What I wanted to talk now is the speed signs, like this one. Red numbers on square boards. Presentation goes on. Speed signals. This is what the Austrian speed signals look like that tell you about the regular permanent speed limit on this piece of track. So it is the equivalent to the German LF7. It looks like one, but it is red instead of black. It is called a Geschwindigkeitstafel, a speed board. This Tafel is important because it indicates that this is one of the permanent ones. So if there is an increase, just like in the German system or in most other systems as well, it is not announced, it is just increased, and the maximum number that you can get is the 16, because also in Austria, from what I have been able to find out, the 160 is the limit that you can go if you are not running under LZB or a higher ETCS level that allows full supervision from the cab signaling. And of course, if it is reduced, then sometimes it is announced. In the rules you find those triangular signs also with a red border and with a red number. In the game I have only seen so far signs of that kind with black numbers. They have a red border but a black number in it. Again, if that is prototypical, I don't know. In the rules they have a red number in it. Special, in German we have every reduction announced with an LF6 board, you know, those yellow triangular boards with a black number on it. In Austria it is a bit different. They save on those announcement boards. They only put up an announcement board if the decrease is at least 20% and 20 kilometers. So if it is only 10 kilometers as a reduction, then you won't see an announcement board, and also if it is less than 20%. They can not always have even numbers like this, or odd numbers, or whole numbers, I think is the word, but sometimes you can have a 0.5 with it, at least up to a certain speed, and you can have a 9.5 that allows you to go 95, or a 0.5 that allows you only to go 5 kilometers per hour. So the distance between those here is, and this we will find a couple of times, it is 700 meters if the speed limit is lower than 100 kilometers per hour, and it is 1 full kilometer if it is 100 kilometers per hour or higher, the general line speed. So yeah, how does this translate to a speed curve? Obviously, as soon as we're getting the higher value, it raises immediately, and here not at the announcement board, but at the high. Obviously we have to pass it with our full train length, so not that I get confused here. Obviously we have to pass it with the whole train, but as soon as the whole train has passed, then we get an increase in line speed limit, and if it is a decrease, then obviously as soon as we pass it with the tip of our train, and the announcement board doesn't change it. Those things here we know from the German system as triangular signals, a white number on a black sign, and this is also existent in the Austrian system, and it is not a speed board, not a Geschwindigkeitstafel, but a speed indicator, a Geschwindigkeitsanzeiger. In German there would be the ZS3 and ZS3V signs, and the specialty or the interesting fact about those kinds of speed restrictions is that they had a predefined end. They don't apply unless there is a new limit, but they end with the end of the zugehöriger Weichenbereich, in German the anschließender Weichenbereich. So with this set of interlockings that is connected with it, and then afterwards you can go back to line speed, even though there is no special sign anymore. I'm using the yen sign because that is the sign that in German timetables is used to indicate this point where the Weichenbereich ends. I don't know if this is done the same way in Austrian timetables. If you know, tell me, then I will adjust that. So, oops, this should not appear already. At this point, we have a limit to 80, and then at the end of the Weichenbereich, it goes back automatically to the line speed limit that we had before. They can be sitting alone in the landscape, but more often they are connected with a signal. Typically, the white version, the one that actually tells you that here starts speed limit, is connected with a main signal. If it is an 80 I've seen in the game, you won't get the single green, but the double green, what is typically telling you you are allowed to go 60, but obviously in connection with this signal you are allowed to go 80. I don't know, maybe at higher values, 120 or whatever, they show it with the full green, but I don't know where the demarcation line is. It can be like a signboard, then it has the white border, or it can be just an illuminated number, just as we know that from the German signaling. Then we do not have the white number around it. It is not sitting in a triangle like in the German system, but it is always a square. But it is announced by a triangular sign, quite similar from what we know from the German system. Yellow number on black ground with a yellow border on the triangular sign. This is the announcement for it. Geschwindigkeitsvoranzeige, distant speed indicator. And this can be and typically is in connection with a distance signal mounted underneath. At least that is what the rules say. And it can be also without the triangular form, without the border, only the illuminated yellow number. A special thing that I have not seen in the game, but what is described in the rules, is that you can have this thingy here. It is called a gelbes Trapez, a yellow trapezoid. That again indicates that this speed reduction signal, be it at a distance signal or be it as at a single or isolated distant indicator, it indicates that there is a PZB magnet fixed to it and that it should be at this time actually active. I have not seen that in the game, but it is described in the rules, so that you have to be prepared that there is an active 1000 Hertz, so that you have to acknowledge it. If you have driven in Germany on the German routes, then you are actually almost programmed that you always acknowledge a ZS3V sign, so this will not really startle you. What I'm also not entirely sure is if there is an 80 reduction announced, then you will, if you will get the double green distance signal, or whether the orange light will be on indicating that there is a speed restriction coming in. I will have to pay attention later if we see something like this in the game and how it is done there. So it is not unlikely that if we get the clear 60 at the main signal, then that we will actually not get the indicator for clear signal, but the corresponding one with the yellow light on top of there. Let's pay attention to that later when we get on. What happened now? Yeah, I wanted to say something else. If there is anything unclear to which track the sign applies, to the left or to the right, we can have those arrows here. It is called a Richtungspfeil, direction arrow, and it can obviously apply to those signs as well. And we know that maybe from the German system we have two different arrows, one that connects the sign with a certain track and the other one that tells us in which diverging line the announcement applies to. And also it works here in the Austrian system, but it is the same arrow. So this would actually would not really know if this is that this sign belongs to the right track or whether this is for the right one of two diverging lines. Obviously to this one it can apply too. What I have not seen in the game are Langsamfahrsignale, slow going signals. That is another thing of a speed restriction, where we have an announcement, a start marker and an end marker. And here it is not a board, not a tafel, not an indicator, but it is a signal. So this is the announcement signal, triangular, telling you there will be a reduction in speed limit soon. Then this is the signal that marks the beginning of the restriction in speed limit, and this marks the end of the speed limit. The rules do not say that they are only for temporary restrictions. They look a bit like the corresponding signals that we have in the German system that are only for temporary restrictions, even without the yellow lights. The rules do not specify that, so I do not really know when those signs are used. There is again the distance 700 or 1000 meters, just like this here, depending on line speed. I put them here. I have not seen them in the game yet, just to make this comprehensive. And this is the thing that CD Radar pointed out before. It is not really a speed signal, but it also tells you to handle your speed and manage your speed because you're approaching a station. This is a stop board. stop announcement board. Here's the station stop that is incoming, and we have this in a spacing of 700 meters, again, if the line speed is lower than 100 kilometers or 1,000 meters. You have it in the Czech Republic as well? Great. I think we have it in Germany as well, at least it is described in the rules, but I have not yet seen it on a German trains in world route. Maybe it is on Linke Rheinstrecke. I do not own this DLC, so I wouldn't know. Yes, before we get to shunting and protection signals, we have to drive our train a bit. It's already getting on in time. Wow, this will be a long stream today. Yeah, so this stopping announcement or station announcement board, we will typically see that at about the same time when our barber pole indicator starts getting orange. I have to make haste a bit to get back on. Here, orange border, magnet is there, but signal is clear. Good thing. No monitoring. But what do we get? A caution signal. Prepare for stop. Acknowledge. Slow down to 80, slow down to 60 in preparation for a 500 Hz monitoring. Ignore the Verschub signal. This is where the diverging line goes towards St. Margareten. Unfortunately, we are still under the caution signal. Need to be ready for a 500 Hz. This is why we can't go faster than 60. That sound was the SIFA. Even though it is a long, long way until we get to the platform. So what does CD Radar say? Ooh, now that I think that they could add city chat to the game in the future, that is a good idea, yeah. Well, best thing on it is its sound, so if they mess it up like this, I would not get over it. Yeah, that is the problem. If you actually know too well what those trains actually sound like or are supposed to sound like, then it is hard to accept something that does not sound like the real thing. Did we get out of our monitoring at least? Looks like it. Wolfurt. Yes. 140. 140 sign. You can see it here. And now we are already supposed to be at Wolfurt, but we are not. Not even within the 1,000-meter area. At least the signals are clear. I think at the entrance of this yard area we should already start slowing down. Yeah, because we are not getting a station marker here. The barber pole just turns orange. Nice Vectrons on the sidings to the right. Platform, we should already be down to 40, but are not. Get the people at Wolfurt on the train. The Vectron, yes. I already started thinking about what topic could I use for the Vectron. Austrian freight, obviously. And we can talk about the Nachbremswirkung. Could use the livery designer for that. Use the DB Dostos and the Taurus if the model match, obviously. For creating a city chat. It's an interesting idea. So I have to yank in the power a bit. We have to make haste to get back on timetable. Schwarzach, Platform 1. Here is the station marker. But Austrian Dostos are more squarish. Ah. Then it is a different thing. Who built the Austrian Dostos? Also Bombardier or somebody else? But I think that I have seen a Weasley livery in one sharing hub. Alright. Bludenz. Driver assist. I put it to minimum brake, not to power. I appreciate that you do not want us to start the train with the doors open, but still, minimum brake is not actually power. This is power. Haselstauden is the next stop. Theodorus asks, any initial thoughts, opinion on the Vectron, my favorite loco in TSC? I have only played the introduction so far, but I really like the look and feel of this locomotive, I have to admit. So my expectations are high. And obviously it is a bread and butter locomotive on German tracks that you see almost every day when you are traveling by train in Germany. And AJ says the Javelin is better. Yes. I really love the Javelin, but that is a nice thing, that with trains in the simulator you are not stuck with what you have, but you can switch about. The official name of them is the Nahverkehrs-Doppelstockwagen, and they're built by SGP and Siemens. I see. What is SGP? Never heard of that. But this doesn't say anything. Now we are approaching Dornbirn. Dornbirn has a speed limit of 11 km. Simmering Graz Paunke. Alright. So it's an Austrian manufacturer then. Yes, it should be fun for freight stuff. Hopefully it has a good simulation. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing a lot with the Vectron. They built also subway trains and tramways. Twelve restriction. Restriction. Station marker here. That was a bit late, the station marker. And we had a 110 limit. Limit back at 120. Let's see what the barber pole does. It is more or less... There is the Vectron on the left side. But the Vectron in the game, at least on the AI trains, they have sometimes weird lights on. Sometimes you encounter a Vectron that shows 3 red lamps instead of 3 white lamps when you're approaching it. What is not something that you would expect neither on German nor in Austrian signaling. DTG quality standards. Well, I really don't know what to think of that. Sometimes they do so sophisticated stuff and stuff that you look at and you think, jeez, amazing that they thought of that and implemented this. And then sometimes you get such weird things like signals hidden behind bridge pillars or weird lights on the locomotive. I think we are at 120 now, but there will be another 110 restriction if I am not mistaken. Dornbirn-Schoren, that can't be far. Barber pole is already active in Dornbirn, yes. Again, you get the feeling that the barber pole indicator just freezes and does not move anymore. You're not really regaining time, but that was like this the first time. But the overhead catenary, if you look at this like this, I don't know if you can see that on the stream, but this looks really great. No flickering, everything is stable. Dornbirn-Hatlerdorf is next. And we should be there in 3 seconds. I don't think that we can make this. Even though we are running downhill. And 20 limit, yes, it is increasing from here. There's a station marker incoming. Woof, that was a lag again. But here you can see how the clouds are hanging in the mountains. I appreciate that. That looks nice. Must be a short platform here, because now all of a sudden the barber pole is almost empty. Now regaining a bit. As long as we're getting more than 450 points, it is okay. And getting closer to 480. Then the combined accuracy and timeliness is back. Theodoro says the OHLE is way too thick. Maybe. That is obviously the downside. If you don't want to have the flickering, then you make it thicker. Even in dynamic thickness. Well, we will see. Maybe they can fine-tune it a bit to have the dynamic thickness without having it too thick altogether. Hohenems is next stop. Hohenems, platform 2. A 13 limit was indicated, but it's already over again. So that we had on the last stream, right, with a weird 13 limit around this spot coming from the opposite direction. I wonder when the stop indicator comes up. Probably where the houses are, no, in between. Barber pole switched without the stop indicator. Well, we're going uphill. This is not impossible to get the train slow enough. And now it's downhill, okay. But we don't really have the time for a soft stop. So, can you see those numbers in the overhead catenary? 70, 140. I wonder if they are stop markers telling you with a train up to 70 meters you're supposed to stop here, 140 meters you're supposed to stop here, but I could not find confirmation for that. Altach will be next. So we're 61. Making up a bit time. Getting closer to schedule. Any speed limits incoming? No. It's 140 and 140 it is. Even 160, but our train is not allowed to go faster than 140. Station marker. Activating the brakes. Main circuit breaker signal. That was a long CIFA because of the lag. Now we are without. Now we closed it again. And what you could see was how the pneumatic brake took over from the dynamic brake, and how the dynamic brake came back after turning on the main circuit breaker again. So I think this brake here is the fallback device that is indicated in the brake markings with the PN marking, but you would not really use it except for securing the train maybe, because the air brake is blended in automatically. Doesn't that look nice? The light in the mountains. Or here in the distant valley. It's a cool new feature for Trains and World players to learn, I guess. Before this, I can only remember it exists in Dresden-Riesa route. Well, Dresden-Riesa is the route with the most stuff happening and everything. And the main circuit breaker on and off thing is obviously for the TGV, and then you have it on Boston-Providence, for example, but it did not get a lot of attention then. But there are dead section markers. Slowing down for Götzis. And we're a tad fast. Unfortunately, it's a long platform in Götzis. We ran the 70 mark. But the barber pole is... Do you want us to go all the way? Weird. The barber pole wants to stop us. Wants us to stop at the far end of the platform. So all the people have to walk over here. Yeah, but that's what it wants. So this is where the train is. This is where the people are. Here is the 70. If it is a stop marker, it actually would make sense, right, to stop the train here so that people don't have to go all the way to get to us. Well, the barber pole. Well, I forgot what it is actually called, this thingy. Yeah, Austrian railway scenery is truly amazing. Scenery is truly amazing. Personally, love the Tyrol horseshoe curve between Brenner and Innsbruck. Those are the things that I do not even know between Brenner and Innsbruck. I have to Semmering top. So next stop is in Klaus. Klaus in Vorarlberg. Also a bit of a weird name. Klaus is a German Christian name. So Klaus in Vorarlberg sounds a bit like Joe in Texas. Station marker. So this is Klaus. I love those gondola cars, the bluish ones. They all have this nice surface. No. Sulz-Röthis is the next stop. How did we fare for 72? Well, enough, I guess. But we're not even in Feldkirch. So this takes a bit running this line. Station marker for Sulz-Röthis. At least nobody jumped in front of our train so far today. is one with a suitcase. What are those indicators for all of them? What indicators do you mean, City Radar? Simmeringbahn, yes, I even know that. Sulz-Röthis in here, in Röthis they actually managed to do the umlaut correctly. Rankweil. I always said you can totally see that the route is running much smoother than the first time. And it's actually true. It is running smoother than the first time. I hope this also applies to the Los Angeles route. Because that was really harsh yesterday. Oh. This again should qualify as harsh braking. But I guess the harsh braking penalty has been removed from the game. 482, that's the best value that we got for the stop so far. The indicators in the cap. You can go through them. This is main circuit breaker off. U-Brim, I have no idea. Entkuppelt Zugverband, that means uncoupled for the train set. Doors open, doors closed, the blue one. But I don't know if they work, at least you can't see it if they are working. Feldkirch-Amberg is the next one. Brand is fire, obviously. Störung, Brandmeldung, that is malfunction, fire indication. This is a general malfunction, Störung. This is the CFA light that should go on if you don't press the CFA pedal. Sperre Traktion is a traction lock, so they should go on if you get a traction lock. NBU is the Notbremsüberbrückung, where is the system that allows you to override an emergency brake application initiated by the passengers. And the next one we will do after the next stop, because I don't want to miss the station. Oops. Here is one of the triangular speed signs with a black number in it. And according to the rules that I have read, it should be red, not black, the number. Not only the border, but also the number. And you can see we're almost back on time. Almost. Now the barber pole does not want to go. "35 minutes late." MG, I don't know what that is. C-Druck, that is... C-Druck is typically the air pressure in the brake cylinders, so maybe this is an indicator for... HSS, yeah, seconds, no minutes, you're right. Federspeicher anlegen, this is the parking brake, activating parking brake. Federspeicher lösen, parking brake release. Fernlicht, it should go on if you have the high beams on. If that works, I don't know. And those indicators here, I think this is for the microphone so that you can select where you're actually talking to. FST for Führerstand cap, probably the cap on the other end of the train. And probably for inside, outside and both. But this is just guesswork. Next is Feldkirch, there will be a speed reduction, right? To 110. So with all the little shunting signals everywhere, I think we should talk about the shunt... Oh! I'm speeding, but I can't stop speeding because I'm caught. I think that was the first time that the game caught me speeding on this trip, obviously. And as you can see, Feldkirch is one of the bigger cities in Vorarlberg. This is an interesting signal here. Squarish with a projection signal displayed. $480, yeah, that is okay. So I think... Ooh, that was a bad speeding. No, it is time for the last part of the presentation. The protection and shunting signals. First, talk about the signals that actually apply to shunting services and normal train services alike. We have those signals that are up in the air on a mast on a pole, and they look like a normal red signal but have this white border around it. The more modern signals and the one that are the typical signals according to the rules have also this white vertical stripe in the middle to indicate that those signals are protection signals and not normal main signals, even though they have a main signal classification here. That means no service is actually allowed to pass this signal. Fahrverbot. This is driving prohibited, passing prohibited. The red signal here obviously addresses train services and shunting services alike. This thing we know also from the German system is more or less the permanent version of the red light. Haltescheibe, the stop disc. We also know that from the UK system, those boards with the red circle on top of it. You mustn't pass. You just mustn't pass. Often you have this sign on a buffer block or put up in the track. It is just a stop sign for all services. Mustn't pass it. The opposite to this one, also the same signal but with a different aspect, we have just passed it here on the line, is the white lights on top of each other in a vertical fashion. This means that the Fahrverbot is aufgehoben. That means that the prohibition to pass this signal, it has been released. So it is not actually a positive aspect, but it means that the ban to pass this signal has been relieved, so you can pass it as a shunting service as well as a train service. The thing that we are not seeing in the game are those white horizontal vertical stripes on those signals. We see the white border but not the stripe in the middle, and this is because the earlier version that is still acceptable but will not be built anew but slowly replaced by the signals with the white stripe in the middle looks like this without the white stripe. So those exist, but according to the rules, this is not the signal as it is supposed to be according to modern standards, but it is in the so-called Appendix 2, Anlage 2, with the signals that are still acceptable and still valid, but they will be replaced eventually by the more modern version. So this is why I have in my presentation the more modern version in it. Those signals, I have it in my presentation because they more or less fit here, but I have not seen them in the game so far. Maybe they are at some point. This funny white circle means that you cannot pass the signal. And you will find those signals at turntables or at some movable bridges where a piece of track can be moved around, or similar installations. You cannot pass it because the turntable is in a position where you cannot drive on it or something. Opposite of it would be like this, a horizontal bar, and then you can go on it. But if it is in the game, I don't know. Maybe we will have to play some shunting services to find this. But it is in the rules and it is interesting, so I put it into here. So corresponding to those signal indications, I wanted to present you with the signals that apply only to shunting services, only to Verschubfahrten, as it is called in Austria. And this one, it is more or less what we have a lot in other systems as well. The horizontal bar again is the Verschubverbot. No shunting allowed. Pass this signal. If you are a train service like we are in the service that we are playing, you can pass it. This is why we are constantly passing those signals, but as a shunting service you would not be allowed to pass it. You will have to stop until it gets relieved. This sign here we know from the Niedertalbahn especially, and from other situations on German routes. It looks the same, but it has a slightly different text. It has Halt für Verschubfahrten. In German it says Halt for, in Germany it says Halt für Rangierfahrten, stop for shunting services. This is the equivalent of this permanent stop signal, but it only applies to shunting services, and you find it typically at the border of station areas, so that you can shunt around and about in the station area, but you cannot leave the station area beyond this part, because then you need to be normal train service that is allowed to go on the open track. So this, we passed it a lot even without being able to read the text, but it says Halt für Verschubfahrten, stop for shunting services. Verschubhalttafel. That's what the name is. And this one we know from Dresden-Riesa and the Eastern German routes a lot. This is a Wartesignal. You have to wait here. This is why it is displaying a W. It does not really have a function in the game because we can just pause it, but typically in real life as a shunting service, it does not apply to normal train services. You have to wait and ask the yard master or whoever is in charge of this piece of track if you are actually allowed to pass, and then there are several ways that this guy can tell you that you can pass. Be it with a light signal, be it with a hand signal, be it with something that they tell you via your mobile phone or whatever. But this is actually something that requires you to wait until you get the permission to pass the signal. A special thing here, sometimes you have this little triangle on this shunting signal. That is a weird speciality. That means even if the signal turns to you may pass it, we will see that this is the signal for you may pass it. You may not pass it indefinitely, but there is a predefined point in track where you have to stop, and for that you need to know the track and you need to read your timetable and the description of the track so that you know that there is a specific point, and this triangle is reminding you. It is a Verschubzusatzsignal, an additional shunting signal, more or less translated. I have not seen it in the game yet, maybe it is somewhere, and if you're spadding out, even though you're past a signal that you thought allowed you to drive, this is because this is only a limited permission to pass the signal, because there is some point where you may not pass after that. Well, the signal that allows you to pass, just like Fahrverbot aufgehoben, just like, yeah, you're allowed to go. Verschubverbot aufgehoben, shunting ban lifted, right? Yeah, you can go here. This can appear in isolated form like this, but it can also appear on a signal of that kind, with or without the white bar in the middle. And it can appear with a normal main signal with the red light showing, and then those lights, we have seen it in the UK, we have seen it in Germany as well. That means you can pass the red light, but only as a shunting service, not as a Zugfahrt. Yeah, this is the difference between those two aspects as well. If the lights are on top of each other, then all services may pass this signal. If they are in a diagonal fashion like this, then only shunting services may pass this signal, not normal train services. And it can also appear in connection with this waiting signal here, allowing you to pass it. So this is one way that the yardmaster or whoever is in charge can allow you to pass the signal. One thing that we are actually finding in the game a lot are those markers here. They are typically fixed in a way where you have tracks next to each other and there is a switch connecting them. So those are called a border marker, a Grenzmarke, and they tell you up to what point you can put your trains or vehicles and have them standing there, so that the trains passing on the other side, on the other track, are safe in front of you. You have this thing in German. In Germany, the Grenzmarke, that looks like this. In Austria, it looks like this, and it can actually be cut in two and put into two different positions. So this is typically one side is associated with one track and the other side is associated with the other track. And if you are leaving cars behind or whatever, then they are not allowed to stand further than the position that is indicated by this Grenzmarke. We have that at least in Bludenz a lot, and I think we will encounter them before as well. An interesting thing, it also exists with a red marker in between, and then it is a marked border marker, or it is an interesting word in itself, and this means that you can't really rely that the other side is safe if you are putting a train up to this point, and then you are typically not allowed to put the cars up to the marker here, but have to keep a longer distance. I just put it in. I've not seen it in the game. I put it in because it is more or less in context here. Yeah, I think this is the presentation that I prepared for today. It was a lot of stuff, but there is actually a lot in the game, and now I think I have covered almost everything. that I have encountered in the game so far, and a little bit more. And I'm still annoyed that I actually got caught speeding. Now we have our last lap from Feldkirch to Bludenz. You're almost back on time. Only a couple of seconds late. Frastanz. Or Frastanz? I don't know how to pronounce this properly. Here, for example, you can see those Grenzmarken. Always telling you how far you can go until you're occupying the track. Or you're fouling the track next to each other. Yeah, we can see that the doors closed indicator is illuminated. Also the malfunction is indicated. I don't know. And that the parking brake released indicator is illuminated. At least some of them are working. What malfunction we got, I don't know. But we have to go into the tunnel to see if the indicators are working. Increase to 140. And last time I was here, I thought, maybe I start slowing down at this bridge already. Frastanz. Frastanz? Maybe it's Frastanz. Next halt, next stop. Now we actually have to wait. So we made up enough time. No! I locked the doors too fast. Unlock doors? Did I really? Herzlich willkommen in der Regionalzug nach... Yes. You can do this. Meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, herzlich willkommen im Regionalzug von Feldkirch nach Bludenz. Unser nächster Halt ist in Schlinz-Beschling. Bitte genießen Sie Ihre Fahrt mit der S-Bahn Vorarlberg. Zur Rechten sehen Sie das Pfändergebirge, uns zu Ehren eingehüllt in die Wolken. So I actually don't know what mountains those are on the right. Čistí stanice. That is check for next stop light. Proxima fermata. Meine Damen und Herren, nächster Halt ist in Schlinz. Der Ausstieg befindet sich auf der rechten Seite. Wir erleben leider einige Turbulenzen, die auf die Unwägbarkeiten des Bremssystems zurückzuführen sind. Machen Sie sich keine Sorgen, unser Personal hat alles im Griff. Čistí stanice Praha hlavní nádraží. Hlavní nádraží. Ah, that is the main station. Here's the station marker already when we are leaving the station. Sehr verehrte Fahrgäste, wir begrüßen auch die neu zugestiegenen Fahrgäste ganz herzlich in unserem Regionalzug nach Bludenz. Der nächste Stopp ist bereits in wenigen Sekunden in Nenzing. Well, I speak German, English, a little Dutch, a little Italian, a little French, and I can read Spanish, I think. And I'm working on Czech, at least to read some words. Well, it comes with time and age, I think. And well, Austrian does not really count as a language, I think. Even though I cannot stress this enough that one of my grandfathers was actually Austrian, so I have a natural connection to this country. Oh, I closed the doors too early again. That is not good. Now we're getting late. Chili's already bugging me because she wants out. Chili, it is a bit to go. We have to stop at Ludisch. Look, Chili, we are 2 or 3 stations and then we're good. And then we can go out. That is not the station marker, this is the station marker from behind. So the cruise control actually works, but you can just punch in, just as I was talking about the cruise control, we have to do the main circuit breaker thing again, and then we typically get a traction lock or something. So cruise control works, but you have to check your keyboard layout, because the typical toggle on, toggle off button does not really work as it used to. So you gotta find the selection for the cruise control off button again. So when you're actually stopping according to the barber pole from 140, you gotta yank in the brakes quite heavily to make it in this 1 kilometer. A good thing that we don't have this on the Boston-Providence route with the ACS locomotive. I think this is the locomotive with actually the longest braking distance in the game, more or less, or the apart from the 300 kilometers trains or something. The American, no, what is it? Amtrak City Sprinter ACS. What is actually the first member of the Vectron family that we had in Train Sim World. Next stop is in Nütziders. Or is it Nütziders? Never know. Yes, Theodoro says this is why he prefers driving freight over driving passengers. I pity them with the braking. I can feel you on that. That is the nice thing about driving freight, and you don't need to stop. But you always can do empty coach moves with passenger trains. We had this the other day, that those are so enjoyable. Now we're actually getting a... Yes, see? The yellow lamp. We have to acknowledge this most probably. Yes, we're getting a... monitoring. So we are approaching a clear 60 signal. Yeah, but as far as I remember, the ACS, it just takes an immense distance to slow it down from, what is it, 125 that it can go. So, where did I lose my time again? Probably because I closed the doors early. Yeah, the other day I was on a very full regional train or S-Bahn train, I'm not quite sure, on Friday afternoon, and the train could hardly leave the station because every now and then more people were trying to wedge themselves on the train. And I totally did not envy the poor driver who was looking out of his... See the repeater, the Signalnachahmer for speed limit, clear with speed limit. So the poor driver was looking out of his window and tried to close the door, but he couldn't because there were always people halfway in the train. Yes, here it is. Telling long stories about things and forgetting that we stopped in a monitoring. We had to acknowledge the distance signal for the clear 60, stopped, got a restricted 1000 Hertz, and we're limited to 40. And blum, here we go. Doesn't happen if you actually see your indicators flashing. Can't release. Now it worked. So, Bludenz. Poslední stanice, Bludenz. Here is the double green for 60, together with a caution signal. Again, I don't know if we're getting a 500 Hz somewhere. Or not. So I don't know when or if I have to slow down to 40. But this does not matter that much. Look at this aliasing on the buildings to the left. That is weird. So, this is one of those signals that apply for shunting services and train services as well. And actually we probably should have stopped in front of the signal. At least we managed to stop in front of the marker. Still got some points. I guess this is the last stop. Well, to be honest, I would have chosen to stop in front of the signal. Not in this position, but hey. Bludenz. And from here the line runs on to Schruns, while I'm opening the doors on the wrong side, I'm afraid. Well, it's been a long stream, 2 hours 30, a crash course through the Austrian signaling system. But you get a lot of points for one services, almost 30,000. 29,166. I still don't know why we're always getting an NA on the used safety systems and correct cap setup where we're not getting points. Maybe they're just subtracting if we're not doing it. Speeding, this was here at Feldkirch, where we ran into speeding. Viperspear did not have any rain, and the bonus together for everything. Here you can actually see. Interesting. You never really know where the stop markers are in correlation to the barber pole. At least this seems a bit out of tune. And this, please fix this. This is annoying me. The level indicator and the points are running into each other, and this just looks weird. I hope they will fix this. Alright. I think this was the stream for today. Return to free roam. Austrian signaling system and a nice ride the whole line, excluding the branch line from Lindau in Germany to Bludenz in Vorarlberg. Vielen Dank, dass Sie mit der S-Bahn Vorarlberg gefahren sind. Ich hoffe, Sie hatten einen angenehmen Aufenthalt. Genießen Sie Ihren Urlaub in unserem wunderschönen Land. Und bis zum nächsten Mal. Thank you guys. And have a nice time. Take care.